Tier list, 90 cheeky tier lists. Tier list, 90 cheeky tier lists. Hello everyone, my name's Christopher Nightingale, and I'm back again with another cheeky tier list. Now, if you're a similar age to myself, and I'm in my early 30s now, when you were young, before school, here in the UK, on weekdays there was always cartoons on BBC, on CBBC, and they were always Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and I used to get up every morning and watch these before I went to school, and they were great. So what I thought I'd do today is rank the classic Hanna-Barbera TV cartoons. So this is the little list that we've got. Got several tiers. Got classic cartoon, good fun, alright, background viewing, and poor. So Hanna-Barbera did absolutely hundreds of cartoons. I didn't want to include them all because, quite frankly, some of them I've just never even heard of. I had no idea they did so many. So I'm just focusing on the classics, some that I've heard, ones that I watched when I was young. So if I have missed out your favourite Hanna-Barbera cartoon, I am very, very sorry in advance. Right, let's start with Scooby and Scrappy-Doo. Right, now I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I think Scooby-Doo is the most overrated cartoon ever made. Everyone seems to rave about Scooby-Doo, and I just don't get it. I don't get the fuss about it. I don't see why it's that good. It's the same premise every single time. It's literally exactly the same. The comedy's not even that funny in it. It's just, it doesn't have anything about it for me. I always thought it was a bit, I never found Scooby-Doo as a character himself, the dog, particularly likeable. I certainly did not have time for his annoying little nephew Scrappy-Doo. He just pissed me off. I puppy power. It's like, oh my god, just shut up, you annoying little dog. And that's why I have to put that as it's for Scrappy-Doo. And that just killed it for me. I mean, I thought Scooby-Doo, the original, is and in advance I've got Scooby-Doo here, the original. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I thought that was passable. I thought that was by far, if you're going to go for any one of the Scooby-Doos, that's the series to focus on, because it's the original and it's probably the best. But no, even that, for me personally, would be background viewing. I wouldn't be really that engaged in it. Scrappy-Doo just pissed me off. It's just, there was absolutely no need to bring him in. He's up there for one of the most annoying cartoon characters ever made, actually, I think, Scrappy-Doo. He really, I mean, what does he do? He's just annoying. And no one asked for him. No one asked for him. So, yeah, that's why he's going there. And the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I'm going to put his background viewing. Does anyone else remember the Snorks? It was basically... It's quite obvious what they did. They had a good thing going with the Smurfs, and they thought, you know what we'll do? We'll make it underwater, and we'll just call it the Snorks. We don't even need to change the character design. We'll just put a little breathing hole on the head, and it's the Snorks. It's such the most blatant rip-off ever. But I actually think it's not that bad. I actually think it's alright, actually. And, fair play to them. If you're going to rip it off, if you're going to rip off one of your own cartoon series, if you do it well and put enough originality in there, it's okay. And the Snorks, I'm going to tell you, the Snorks is actually alright. It's not that bad. I remember quite enjoying that. Now, here's the thing with Tom and Jerry, right? If Tom and Jerry was a TV show, it would be number one with an absolute bullet. The thing is with Tom and Jerry is it's theatrical cartoons. There were cartoons that were made for the cinema, so it's not technically a TV show, so it's not on this list. If it was in this category, it's the greatest, by far, the greatest Hanna-Barbera cartoon ever created is Tom and Jerry. It's probably the greatest cartoon ever created, actually, Tom and Jerry. It's just a masterpiece. What they did do years later is they did Tom and Jerry Kids. And I'd have to put it as background viewing. I wouldn't say it's absolutely terrible, but it's not the best, really. I mean, the trouble is, right, they obviously toned down the violence, and I know it's like they're kid versions of themselves, Tom and Jerry, so you can have a little bit, but the original theatrical cartoon, they beat the shit out of each other. I mean, they absolutely beat the crap out of each other, and that's what makes it so funny. With this, they obviously have to tone that down, because, you know, I think this was made in the 1980s, the Tom and Jerry Kids show, and they obviously looked at the cartoons that were done in the 40s and 50s, like, this is a bit too violent, and yes, it is. That's the joke. That's why it's so good. That's why it's so funny, is because literally beating the crap out of each other, and that's what makes it so glorious. With this, they obviously toned it down, and it lost a lot of its impact and a lot of its fun. So I remember distinctly knowing that, even as a kid, I noticed that. So I was watching Tom and Jerry Kids going, oh, it's not as good as the original Tom and Jerry. It's nothing like it. So that's why it's background viewing. Oh, Secret Squirrel. What an absolute legend. I mean, it's got to go as good fun. That's good fun. I wouldn't say it's classic, because I don't think it is, like, top tier. But it's a good laugh. I mean, for me, obviously, being a huge James Bond fan, Secret Squirrel was basically James Bond as a squirrel. So I thought, well, what an absolute badass. You know, what an absolute guy and a half. So yeah, he's got to go there. Hong Kong Phooey. This for me is like the best premise, but the weakest execution. Like, this had the potential to be so good, and it's not really. I put it as background viewing because, in my opinion, it could be really good. Basically, a martial art fighting dog, right? But and the intro, Hong Kong Phooey, makes you think it's going to be better than it is, and it's not actually. it's clearly it's not that good. So I'm going to put it as background viewing. It should be better than it is, but in my opinion, it's not. In terms of absolute top level, you can't put Wacky Races anywhere else. Wacky Races is genius. It's just a brilliant idea. The amount of the different characters, the different race layouts, the fact that the comedy, even now, if you watch it, is still funny. The fact that they have the announcer get involved in the comedy is brilliant. It's absolutely... The possibilities are endless throughout. Dick Dastardly and Muttley are great villains. All the other characters are memorable. It's a cracker. You could put Wacky Races on at any time, and it's great. It's got to be top tier. For me, that's a classic cartoon, Wacky Races. And we've got a couple of spin-offs. So Wacky Races was very successful, rightfully so, because it's brilliant. So they made a couple of spin-offs. Now, I have differing opinions on both these spin-offs. The first one being the Perils of Penelope Pit Stop, which I think is not actually that good. Where would I put this? Yeah, it's background view. I would say it's terrible, because it's not. It's basically Penelope Pit Stop got captured a lot, and the Ant Hill mob had to save her. But it just wasn't that engaging. They didn't really... Whereas I thought Penelope Pitstop in Wacky Races was actually a really funny character. In the spin-off, she's basically a damsel in distress, and she becomes pretty annoying in the Perils of Penelope. She becomes quickly quite irritating, and the Ant Hill mob aren't very funny. They tone down. It's almost like they scaled the characters back, and it's just they didn't invest that much time in it, and it shows, I think. Now, I don't know how much time they invested in the next show I'm going to talk about, but for me, it's miles better. I think. Now, do you know what? It's classic. It's classic cartoon. I don't care if I don't care what people think. If others disagree with me and think it's, why the hell are you putting it there? It's obviously not. It's just a one joke gag. Well, Dastardly and Muttley and their flying machines is a one joke gag. It's basically three blokes and a dog try to catch a pigeon. And that's the joke. And they never succeed. But the amount of invention in those cartoons is great. The amount of the creativity in the different ways that they go about catching this pigeon is brilliant. And the amount of comedy they wring out of it is great. I have a great time watching Dastardly and Muttley and the Flying Machines. I know it shouldn't be good. I know that it is one joke repeated over and over again, and it shouldn't be that good. And they probably did it on the cheap, the same way as they did the Perils of Penelope Pitstop. But I don't care. I think Dastardly and Muttley are great as a villainous duo, and this is them at their best. They're arguably better in this than they are in Wacky Races, because in this they just they give Muttley more of a personality, and they have the two foils. They have Zilly like, oh my, oh dear, and like the really scared one, and then you got Clunk with the puppy what and all that popping and all that. It's just genius, absolute. Honestly, that pairing, those four together, great, absolutely superb. So yeah, top tier. I wouldn't put it above Wacky Races. I think Wacky Races has more to it, but for me, it's top level. The Jetsons is alright. The best thing about the Jetsons is the theme song. I mean, that's the classic for me. It's a classic theme, but the actual show itself is okay. It's middle ground for me. This is top tier. I would put this. Do you know what? I'm going to put it above Wacky Races, actually. Oh, it's close. Top Cat, oh my god. Okay, well, it's definitely top tier. Whether I put it above Wacky Races, I'm not sure, but Top Cat is so cool. I mean, one of the coolest cartoon characters ever made is Top Cat, actually. He's just a boss. He's just an absolute boss. And his whole gang are great. When you watch that, you want to be in his gang. Like, you really want to be in his gang, because his gang seems absolutely sorted and really cool. So you'd love to hang out with them. They're all great. I personally, I identified with Choo Choo, the pink cat, the most, because he was like the loyal guy, he was just the loyal chap who was just there to help Top Cat out whenever he needed help, but yeah, he was obviously not the coolest one of the group, but the rest of his gang liked his company and appreciated him for what he was. So I identify with Choo Choo. I didn't identify with Top Cat the most, but that's the great thing about that show, and the great thing about Wacky Races is you can project yourself onto one of those characters. There will be a character that you identify with in Top Cat, and the same Wacky Races. It's but yeah, and Officer Dibble, the interactions Top Cat has with Officer Dibble are just top drawer. just perfect. You can't script them better. They're great. They're absolutely great. And they only did one series. They only did 30 episodes of Top Cat, which is quite surprising. But they're great. I mean, you don't need to make a ton of shows for it to be good. You don't want to do what The Simpsons has done, sadly, and overstay their welcome. You know, and it's saying Wacky Races, that didn't last too long either, but each of the episodes are great. So it's quality, not quantity, as the saying goes, and Top Cat's definitely that. So I love Top Cat, highly recommend it. If you've never seen Top Cat, watch it, it's brilliant. This is probably the most famous one of the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and I would say it's good fun. Almost alright, but good fun. The Flintstones is classic. The Flintstones changed cartoons. It changed animation. You know, there'd never been a primetime cartoon series until the Flintstones came along, and it just changed the game. It made it so that cartoons could be family viewing. It wasn't just seen as for kids. It was something for adults as well. The whole family could enjoy it. So the Flintstones changed the game with that. It's almost a bit like the Jetsons in the fact that, for me, the most famous thing about the Flintstones is the theme song. I always thought Fred was a bit of a bastard. I always thought he was a bit up himself, like he really thought he was the boss man, and he's not. Maybe that's the joke. But I always thought he was a bit of a cock. Whereas I always thought Barney Rubble was sorted. Like, I could easily get on with Barney Rubble, and Barney Rubble's laugh like, okay, Fred, just cracked me up every single time. So I would rather watch Barney Rubble than Fred Flintstone. But Flintstones is good fun. It's good fun. It's a good laugh. The Smurfs. Oh, the Smurfs. Do you know what? The Smurfs is good fun. I mean, it's not the best, but it's so harmless. It's the most innocent thing on the planet is the Smurfs, pretty much, isn't it? Literally, it's this nice little world. Each of the Smurfs have the little personalities. It's the good little stories. It's a nice little landscape they've animated. It's just good fun. It's harmless entertainment. It's harmless, innocent entertainment. They're trying to tell good moral stories. It's good fun. I'd prefer to watch the Smurfs over the Flintstones. I'll just say that. Yogi Bear. I never got into it ever. For me, it's background. I never got into Yogi Bear. It's just that's a one joke gag as well. but it's not. It's something I'm invested in. Maybe with Stop the Pigeon, Dastardly and Muttley and the Flying Machines. Maybe because I like the slapstick element of Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, and that's basically Hanna-Barbera were basically doing Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, but with Dastardly and Muttley. That's why I appreciate that more, even though that is a one joke gag. Yogi Bear, it's a one joke gag. He wants to get a picnic. The ranger tries to stop him, but there's not much slapstick in there. It's just that's the joke. That's the gimmick. But I never really engaged with that. I don't think that's enough to hang a show on. Hanna-Barbera obviously think it's enough to hang a show on, and some others obviously agree because they've made films out of him and all that. And I'm sure it must be down to his personality and the fact that maybe Boo Boo's cute, but that's about it. I've never got Yogi Bear. In the same way I've never really got Scooby-Doo. I've never understood why it's so popular, but obviously people identify with this character. So for me, I wouldn't say it's poor. I wouldn't say it's scrappy-doo levels of bad, but it's other people appreciate it. For me, I just have it on in the background. Now, this one, so the last one I'm going to do. all new Popeye. I had a great time with that. Ooh. And now, I must state that Hanna-Barbera took on Popeye. You know, they didn't create Popeye. Popeye was done years and years before in the 30s and 40s. And it was Hanna-Barbera who, you know, took it on and did episodes in the 70s and 80s. And they called it the all new Popeye Hour. And I had a blast watching them. They were great fun. They were really good. And do you know what? I'd put it above Secret Squirrel, actually. I think All New Popeye Hour was a lot of fun. It was they kept all the elements. They kept Popeye, Bruno, Bluto. I think it's Bluto. Olive Oil and all them, and they kept the slapstick in there, which was good. It's funny that they didn't tone down the slapstick violence in that, but they did in Tom and Jerry Kids, even though it was the same era. Slightly odd, but for me, it's great. Gets the spinach shout. I love his. I love all that. That just cracks me up. All new Popeye Hour. Good fun, good memories of that. Have I missed any out? And if I have missed any out, I'm sorry. Out of the ones that are on there, what do you think? Where would you put these cartoons? I think Hanna-Barbera, absolute legendary. Absolutely legendary. I would have loved to have put Tom and Jerry in there because that'd be right up at the top. Right up at the very, very, very top. But, obviously theatrical, and these are focusing on the TV shows. So, I hope that you've enjoyed this little list. It's Hanna-Barbera, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Changed the face of TV animation. We would not have the animation we have on TV now if it wasn't for Hanna-Barbera. So everything that's come after it, all the other cartoons, Cartoon Network, anything like that, it just wouldn't exist. It wouldn't be there because Hanna-Barbera set the benchmark and then showed that cartoons on TV could be popular. So we've got a lot to thank Hanna-Barbera for, and there's still some of these cartoons are getting on to 50 years old, and they're still brilliant. They're still absolutely brilliant cartoons. So if you haven't, check them out. I hope you've enjoyed the tier list. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and until next time, see you later.